State your name and your position.
Pierre-Guy Sylvestre, I'm an economist at the research department of CUPE Quebec in Montreal.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I know you told me a little bit about this yesterday, but I just want to go ahead and ask, should the REM be scrapped, or is there any way that we can improve the existing project?
Sorry, I didn't. It cut. I don't know why.
Oh, sorry about that. Should the REM, should the project be scrapped? Should it be removed, or is there any way that we can take what's currently going on and improve it to meet the vision of the CUPE?
Okay, so what I think is what we think here in CUPE. It's too late to scrap the whole project. I think we could maybe take the REM and renationalize it. That means like we should take the assets, which are kind of private assets because they're owned by the CDPQ. But part of it, we could just like we buy it and be 100% public. So it's too late to scrap it. If we scrap it, we're gonna put more damage to the public transit. There was already railroads that we destroyed or that we're gonna be destroying to replace them by new railroads that was useless to do. So we shouldn't scrap it again, but we should make sure that we own the the assets of the REM. That would be the best thing.
And what is the whole negative side of the partial private ownership by the case?
Well, if you take the Caisse de dépôt et placement du Québec, this is 100% private ownership because they receive their mandates from the government of Quebec. But the thing is, it's like the financial institution. What is it? Is it's constituted of our contribution to our savings. So we have savings for the RRQ, and that's the Public Pension Fund of Quebec that everybody contributes to. But that is your private savings, and then you have the RIGA, which is the pension fund for the people working in the healthcare system, education system. You also have in there like a few pension funds that are from municipalities and even some other organization. The thing is that when we're talking about the savings, it's private savings. They're doing the management of these savings. They're doing the investments with these savings, but what it is, it's private savings. So yes, it's kind of public mandates. So they have a good mission. Initially, their objectives it was to make sure that we were investing our own private savings in some great financial institutions. But the thing is that when you're developing public transit projects for public services, and that you're not owning the assets, that means it's not public. So let's say we take Hydro Quebec. Hydro Quebec is owned by the state, so 100% public crown corporation. So all Quebecers are owning Hydro Quebec. That means that when Hydro Quebec produces electricity, all the profits, 100% of profits, are going back to the state. Even all the assets, even when you look at the public debt, for example, the public debt, you have to take the net debt. So the net debt is going to be what you owe minus what you own. So we own in Hydro-Quebec a lot of assets. So that's a very good investment, public investment for public electricity. The thing with we here with the CDPQ is that we don't own anything, and that's part of the problem. Is because it's private, because now it's private, so we don't have transparency of the information. That's one of the things, and then you don't own the assets, and you're just letting some people that are in the financial markets, and they're doing businesses. They want to do return on equity. They want to make profits, but the profits are not going back to the states. They're going back to your pension fund. But it's quite far. It's far from what our objectives are, which is like Hydro-Quebec is putting back the profits directly in the states. Caisse de dépôt placement is going to put the profit in your pension fund. So you're pretty far from your objective of a public service, publicly owned.
Ideally, if the REM was publicly owned, you know, would the best how do I say this? Would it be ideal to take those profits and put it back into Montreal public transit, such as maybe providing reduced fare, things like this?
Absolutely. Honestly, when you have public transit, like STM or STL, RTL, like in Longueuil, Laval, or in Montreal, everywhere in Montreal, you're not really going to make profits with the public transit. Public transit sector, energy sector are two very different things. With the public transit, how you have to evaluate, in our opinion, here at CUPE, and in the opinion of many experts that are working in public transit, is that you have to evaluate the profit, the return, as an economic profit. So you have to take a look at the GDP, for example, the gross domestic product, even though that's not a good indicator for many reasons. But if, for example, you look at the production, or you can look at the social development, you can take the economic development, you can take the social development, you can measure it too as the performance of your mobility. In Montreal right now, there's problems in mobility. There's everywhere even inside Montreal, there's problems like moving around the island inside and even outside, of course, because we have bridges, and we have a tunnel that is in reparations. It's going to be in the renovations for at least 2 3 years again. So you have to look at all these indicators, not only the account profit, meaning that you have the financial results, for example, of the STM. Take a look at it. You're going to see it's 40, 50, 60% of the revenues are coming from public sources, which is normal because what we think at CUPE is that it should be free. Public transit, especially in these moments, in these contexts, where we have way too much greenhouse gas emissions, especially in Quebec and Canada. In Quebec, it should be we were producing electricity with almost 0% of greenhouse gas. So we already have an advantage. So we should be way lower producer of greenhouse gas that we are now. So we should invest public money into our public transit. Like, we shouldn't make profits out of it. We should invest in that, and then we would see returns. For example, in the infrastructure's investment, like you see the CAC. The CAC is a government in Quebec that invested the most billions of dollars into reflection of roads. Okay, we invest in new roads. They invest. I mean, the government of CAC invests in new roads. It's record amounts of money in new roads. This is a nonsense. We're not going on the right way. So we're not going to make profits. We shouldn't be making profits anyway. Like the CDPQ wants to make 7-8% profits with their REM, which makes absolutely no sense. They're going to have to take their money from somewhere. So what we think is that they're even going to make their profit through the contributions of municipalities and the contribution of a government of Quebec and even from government of Canada. Okay, so they're going to take that and they're gonna put it back in our pension fund. That is great, but the thing, we should measure the profit or the rentability by looking at the impact on their social development, economic development, and the mobility in Montreal. So it's not really to take a profit from a public, for example, crowd corporation in a public transit. It should be more like, let's see how the workers, the students, or anybody living on the island of Montreal, for example, and outside in the community of the greater Montreal, let's see how it gives them an advantage to go faster to their work. Does it makes them happier because the commute is more they get to the work more quickly, they get to their leisures more quickly. That's how we have to measure it. And then, of course, we have to measure it in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. Like, can we lower like of 10% in Quebec or in Montreal our emissions, of greenhouse gas? Can we have we pull out I don't know 1 million cars from our highways in Quebec? That's how we have to measure it. That's how is what it should be for the public transit investment. So you measure economic, social, and I would say the sustainable development improvements. That's how you should measure it. So it's different than Hydro Quebec, for example. Like you have your public utility for energy. That usually you're gonna make profit with the energy sector, but with the public transit, you never really make accounted profit. Yeah, like your financial results, yeah, it's they're gonna be a deficit if you don't put public money. And then if you don't put public money, the fees for the users gonna be very high. Already, the Opus card in Montreal is way too high. Like the rates are too high. The ARTM that nobody knows, like everybody knows CDPQ and everybody knows REM, but ARTM is the agency, the public agency that was created. I think that was like in 2015. That there was a bill that was passed, and this ARTM is responsible of planning the whole development of public transit in the Greater Montreal. Now you almost have half of it that is going to be the REM, the CDPQ. So the ARTM should be working very hard to lower the user fees. But who's going to pay? Who's going to compensate? It should be like the public income taxes. And I'm not even saying that the car drivers or the solo car drivers should pay compensate. That's not it. It's just we're just saying that the income taxes and taxes revenues from the public should pay for the public transit. So it's the other way around, and that's the problem with the CDPQ is that they financialize it. Like they want to make us think that it's better to optimize financial results. So you want to have a CDPQ REM. You want to make 7% of return on equity on that. You want to put that in your pension funds. That's not the way how we should think about it. Because in CUPE, we're a Canadian Union of Public Employees, like we're in public services. We represent members too in private companies, but we're really into public services for public development, not only economic or accountant development or it's very important that your economic development is going to be to the service of your social development. So the objective of economic development should always be social development for a better future, better anything like that. But if you don't have this in your project, if the only thing, your only objective of your project, and that's the thing with REM, because we can sometimes talk about greenwashing. I mean, there's so much concrete. We destroyed so much assets that were still good with the REM that I don't even think we can talk about a sustainable development project. But they always talk about return on equity. Like you go on their CDPQ, it's a financial institution. Like what do you expect from a financial institution? They want to make money. It's normal. But the problem is that the government gave them the mission to do that, the mandate to do it. So the objective of the public transit should really be like somewhere else. But that's why you make no money with public transit. It's a heresy.
It like in terms of this money being reinvested into pensions, is the kind of push towards is it because just reinvesting into pensions only benefit and serve, a certain and small group of people rather than, all Montreal commuters?
With the RRQ, the pension, the régime des rentes du Québec, it's for every Québécois that contribute. But I think it's like it's the PSV, so the CP Canadian Pension Fund. So it's the same thing as Canada. It's the same all across the country in Canada. It just has a different name in Quebec. So it's the public pension fund. Like this is CDPQ. they're investing the whole savings of the Quebecers to make sure that you have your public pension at the end of your active life. So this part is going to everybody, but there's other private pension funds that you're right, it doesn't go to everybody. But so the rationale behind is that they say, oh, a dollar you put into the REM is a dollar you're gonna get with interest when you take your pension. Okay, this is wrong because REM, but it's not wrong, but it's not that important because the dollar you put in the REM, there's gonna go. We don't know. We cannot trace it, you know. But it's the CDPQ. We're talking then more than 200 billions of dollars of assets, like in the whole case. So like this little project for the case is like $7 billion. So it's not really like serving our interests. First, pension. Your pension, you get it when you get 65 years old. So that's for this part of your life. But you're gonna be transiting into public transit for 65 years. Before. So is it worth it, like to make money with that during 65 years just for your pension? And isn't there other ways like we can do some return on our investments for our pensions, especially for our public pensions? I think yes, but I think it will contribute to every Quebecer, but it's not or Canadian like because it's the same pension, public pension. Like you just transfer the assets from one pension to the other, but so is it gonna contribute really for us for all? I think what would really contribute is when we talk about our active life. What is REM going to contribute to your life right now? Not think about pension funds. So it's true that it's for everybody because it's the public pension fund, but your public pension fund, if you just rely on that, it's not going to be enough for you because we always try to get at least 70% replacement of your revenues when you go to a pension, and that there's huge issues, with that, like the Canadian Labor Congress, CUPE, here the Quebec Labor Federation, FTQ, CSN, all the unions in Canada, and even Europe or United States, Mexico too, everywhere in the world. Like for example, that when we are reunited in Public Service International, we talk about the pensions issues. Like look in France right now. It's a repartition pension fund. So they don't they invest less into financial markets in France, and now they got robbed by the Macron government. So here we have to make sure that your public pension fund, if the government is worrying about our pensions, what it should increase the amount you receive from your public pension funds. You shouldn't be interested in what you invest. Like increase the RRQ, increase the CPA, the CPC, and then it's gonna be better for the Canadians and the Quebecers. So it's like it's the world upside down. We're thinking about in what we're gonna invest before upgrading or improving our public pension funds. Like we improved the RRQ by 1%. It's gonna take a long time. The same thing with the pension fund, Canadian pension fund. So, but this is what we have to work on: collective solutions for pension. But we shouldn't only rely on financial markets or financial instruments. Especially like REM, it's not a financial instrument, and that's why at QP we fought it, and we're still gonna fight it, even though it's very hard because we have a bulldozer of government. Because before that, you had the Liberal Party of Quebec, but they're all linked. It's institutional banks of Canada. You have the six great banks of Canada. You have the CDPQ working all together. You have the government, the Ministry of Finance back then from the Liberal Party. They were talking about finance when we were attending at the consultations. We were talking about public transit, and they were talking about finance. And then we say, why you do that in the public-private partnership? And why don't you do the public-private partnership? Do it on the construction phase, just on that. And then you know what they told us is that you have to do it on 30 years to make money. But what we want to know, we want to evaluate it on 30 years. Like, did we reduce the greenhouse gas? Did you improve the mobility? Did you lower the fees for the users? Did you encourage the public transit? Is there still as many cars as there were on the highway? Is Highway 40 and Highway 15 still blocked in traffic jams? It will be like that. REM is not going to help the traffic jams nowhere. We even think it's gonna be worse because uh, like there's exclusivity contracts with the public transit organization. STM, their bosses, they will have to bring other users to the REM. Same thing with Longueuil, same thing with Laval. So there won't be any more possibility for STM and for RTL to plan new trajects for their buses inside Montreal. They always have to optimize their trajects, their travels to the REM. So that's exclusivity contracts. These exclusivity contracts will probably make it sort that there's going to be more traffic. But the thing is that what we want in Montreal, if we want to close, like for example, we want to close a street, want to make sure that it's only people walking there, or only bicycles, or even like only buses. Like buses, even when if you put one oil bus, working with gas, even that you're gonna remove at least 40 cars. So you dedicate one street to the buses, so you don't have any more cars. You have a bus there. Well, we don't have this. We don't have these ideas, and that's not gonna help contribute to lower the traffic jams or the mobility in Montreal. So that's it's not a vision. They don't have a vision. The ARTM was supposed to plan the whole thing. Now you have the REM that is going right into their plans, and what they want to do is not improve mobility, is to improve their financial returns.
Sorry, I was just jotting that down. I just want to confirm when you mentioned that you attended public consultation and the Liberals were talking about financement when you were talking about transit. This was the former provincial Liberal government?
Yeah, it was the Ministry of Finance was Carlos Leitão. I think I sent you the link to our submission. You can find as well our presentation. It's still you can still find it on the National Assembly. It was in 2015. And just for the record, like, yeah, two bills, Bill 38 and Bill 36. Bill 36 was presented by the Minister of Transport, Robert Poitiers. The Minister of Transport, so he presents his bill. He's creating the ERTM. Around the same period, the Minister of Finance, he presents Bill, it was Bill 38 and ERTM was Bill 36. So at the same time, you have the Minister of Finance, he presents Bill 38, CDPQ Infra, REM. And we went to both consultations and we asked them, so you have ARTM that's supposed to plan the transport, and on the other side, you have another bill at the same time that is CDPQ Infra, who's going to build the REM. So we were wondering, is there a fight between transport and finance? That's still our hypothesis. Like, we think there's great oppositions. The Ministry of Transport of Quebec is not the most. It's not really working with efficiency, I would say. So the Ministry of Finance was estimating, we're saying that with the Ministry of Transport of Quebec, it would be too long, too slow to build REM. But at the same time, you have the Minister of Transport who thinks that he can do it. So instead of working with the Ministry of Transport of Quebec, improve the state, improve the public planification of our state in transport, which is fundamental. I mean, like we're doing transport in Quebec. Like we really need to improve the electricity transport. Like you need to build more metros because the metros, we everything everybody knows, every even the Auditor General of Quebec said it. The best way to develop public transport in Montreal and in our urban areas is with metro. It's underground. It's electricity. You get connected. You don't need batteries. You don't need these lithium batteries that are extremely that pollute a lot. So you have these two ministers. You have the Minister of Transport, Minister of Finance, and they're just confronting. And you have the Minister of Finance, like he's coming from the bank sector. It's fine because he's Minister of Finance, but like now he's talking to us in finance, in returns, and in investment, and almost like stockholders, and us, we're talking to them about planification, about the size of the buses, because we're representing bus drivers unions. The bus drivers, they want to participate to this effort too. They're citizens as well. So we were on two planets, and like you see who won. Like the finance won again. And even now with the REM for the East, like I think we have to thank Valérie Plante and his team from Projet Montréal, because they want it. Like it's hard to say no to electricity train. Like you're gonna look like someone who's a bit reactionary. Like you react to something. No, the revolution has to go. We have to go forward. It's avant-garde, so you have to think, yeah, like way further. We have to go with deeper analysis. So the REM for us like is a reactionary more than revolutionary, but it's hard to explain. But at least they stopped the project because they want to plan a better project in the East. But what they were doing is that they were basically like just building a train next to the metro. So what is the purpose of that? So they empty the metro and they put it in a train to make profits. So that's the two visions in 2015 from the Liberal Party that they just confronted each other, and the finance won as usually. And with the CAC, well, what do you expect from the CAC? Like you're not gonna have something revolutionary with CAC. They're just gonna build more roads, just gonna encourage more cars. No, they want to put like again with the electricity, instead of trying to plan metros or even like trains. We have no trains. We don't have a train between Montreal and Toronto. We can even go Toronto, Chicago, Detroit. Like there's this population living next to the United States, in Canada. There's millions of people right there. We should have a train right in the middle. All experts agree from that. And we don't even plan that. So what they plan in CAC is to develop the industry of electric vehicles. But EV vehicles, they see it again as money. We're gonna make money with that. We're gonna build electric vehicles in Quebec, and we're gonna have like a really good productivity. But this is polluting, and it's not. This is not a good a way to develop your have a sustainable development. So see, again, it's financial projects. It's not public transit project, and it's it's still going on. But we're doing a job at CUPE and with our allies, and we try to oppose all these projects that are not sustainable development projects.
Thank you. I have a few more questions, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. Do you have a few more minutes?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So I know that you spoke a bit about pollution just now. Could you tell me a bit more about, how the REM contributes to pollution? And I know there's a big push, as you said, with electric transport, but is really metro the way, and electric buses the way, instead of the REM?
Okay. So the for the REM, the part that is really problematic is that the concrete that was used, because concrete is one of the most polluting industry in the world. To produce concrete, you're going to produce a lot of greenhouse gas. So for this part, the REM is not like, we don't give a good grade. We give 2 on 10 for that part. For the electricity part, what is better, what is good with the metro, for example, or the REM, so is that if you connect them, I will simplify, but if you connect them to the transport lines of Hydro Quebec, And Hydro-Quebec is produced with hydro production. It's not, you don't have a lot of places in the world where you have 98% of your production of electricity with hydro. So you have Uruguay and you have Norway. Now it's 98%. So we have this chance, like we went to the Lotto. In Quebec, we went to the Lotto. We have rivers, we have lakes, and we can take the power and produce electricity with that. You know, so when you connect them directly to these lines, there's no need to stock the energy. So that's one thing that is very important because the lithium is not infinite on the earth on Earth. You know, even now you see like this this magnanimous humanist. I'm joking, of course. Elon Musk, for example, that he loves business. He loves making billions of dollars, exploiting workers and well, him, what he wants is develop the electric vehicles. And now he said he's begging African countries to mine more lithium because he said we need more lithium. And you know, the lithium, apart from the environmental fact that it's very bad for our environment to mine lithium, like you have in cobalt, for example, you have the fact that the workers there in these mines, there's a lot of child worker, forced labor. It is a catastrophe if you look at the labor there. But apart from that, it's very polluting. So if we start to develop, and for example, Elon Musk, like he hates public transit. He said it even. So he wants his little car, you know, his little Tesla, and wants to ride as much as he can individually. So if you build all the little batteries like that, we're not gonna make it. I mean, we're gonna pollute the whole world with all the mining that's gonna occur. And the thing is, when we're gonna finish these resources, because all resources on Earth are finite. You know, there's an end, and we start to measure scarcity with growing inflation. We see it like there's structural inflation. It's not just the Bank of Canada that's going to lower and higher his interest rate. Like, now we have structural inflation. Like the goods are costing more because we don't have other resources. So if we developing electric car vehicles is going to be polluting as much as the car industry right now. So if the metro, the difference is that you don't need to stock the energy, or you need less to stock energy. So it goes like more direct into the metro. The same thing with the REM, or you have the different example all across Canada, in Toronto and in Vancouver too. But that's what we have to develop. So that you don't need to need less lithium, for example, than building 10,000 Teslas, for example. Maybe I shouldn't name the name of the company, but you know, if they sue us, there's no problem. But you see what I mean? Like the individual development is not is going to be worse than if we do it collective. The collective solutions for public transit is the only way to go for big cities like Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver. Plus, you have to change the urbanism, like you have to make more density, but that's another problem. But it has to go together. So these are the things we have to think about, not like developing la filiale auto électrique véhicule électrique in Quebec. That's not going to help us.
Thank you. So I know that you sent me the just gonna pull it up, the cost breakdown
Yeah.
of the REM, and as well as like the financing resources. Do you have any specific thoughts on this that you want to share?
Well, okay. So let's say that you sum all that up. Let's say we're gonna round it at $7 billion. REM is late. Yeah, it's late. They didn't do the construction on time. And you know what? The worst thing in this part is that the link between the downtown Montreal and to the airport is not finished. And that was their first objective was to have a link between downtown Montreal and the airport. And you know that's such a shame. Like we don't have a metro that goes to the airport and we don't have a train. So this they failed. Now they're late in that. But now with 6.9% inflation on the CPI, 3.8 in 2021, 6.7% in 2022. And this year we're going to have like a 4.5% inflation. in the construction goods, it's even worse. It's like we're talking about 10, 15, 20% increase of the price. So they're late in a lot of the phases of the project. Recently, I read that the reconstruction of the renovation of the La Fontaine, Hippolyte La Fontaine tunnel, that it's going to be delayed. So this is delaying their REM too. All these delays with inflation, we think it's going to be around like 10, 11 billion dollars, and that's for the construction, you know. So maybe $3 billion more. So that's maybe around 50, 60% more. But the thing is about the revenues and about who's gonna finance it. So municipalities will have to finance it through taxes, special taxes for that. So you have around 88 municipalities and cities in the Greater Montreal. They're all contributing to the REM. If you have an REM station, you contribute. But this is going through your. We all pay, like citizens. We pay one way or the other, but we're paying a return on their investment. So the return they're gonna have is going to be funded by public funds. And the other thing that CDPQ is gonna do, you know, is that they do captation from the land. So it's like they're in real estate, and they already had bought a few places, real estate assets around stations that they plan. So they figure out that they will make money on the growth of the value of the asset, which is real estate. So that's some part of the returns they're going to have. But the other returns are going to be funded by the municipalities. So how much is it going to cost to the Montrealers, to people from Châteauguay, from Dollard des Ormeaux, from everywhere, Laval, for example? Well, it's going to cost you more and more. Let me tell you that, because the municipal taxes is going to be pumped to finance it, and all the problems that we're going to discover after what we signed, the contract we signed with CDPQ Infra, which is secret, by the way. Like half of the contract is secret because it's a private company, the CDPQ. And some people were surprised. They thought, "Oh, we thought CDPQ was public." No, it's not public. It's a private institution with a public mandate, but it's private. So in this contract, everything we didn't plan is going to be paid by your taxes, my taxes. You know, so that's the municipal taxes plus the income taxes, because we pay. We do fund with the Ministry of Transport of Quebec. We fund this REM, and there's a government of Canada who funds that. So your provincial income taxes, your federal income taxes, your municipality taxes, all these revenues are going to be funding the REM. So everything we forgot, everything that is going to go, the overcost, we're going to pay it. So how much it's going to cost? Let's see each other in 30 years, and we can calculate. We can sum up all what was forgotten, and it's going to be maybe 12 billions. But the real question is not, because, you know, if you look at a dollar in 15 years, okay, yes, there's inflation, but a dollar in 15 years that you're going to get is nothing, almost nothing today, you know. But right now, like in the next 5 years, if we don't have taken like actions to lower our greenhouse gases in Canada especially, the whole Canada, like we produce so much oil, we pollute so much, like how can we compensate? Like we can have this oil production because we have this with the Quebec Labor Federation and the Canadian Labor Congress, we do represent people working in the oil industries. We don't have to attack these workers, but we have to find a solution to diminish this production or compensate it with something. That's what we call the transition, like the transition juste, or the fair transition. So when we convince these workers that they will have to transition, we did that deal on the union side, but how we're going to do it in 5 years is going to be very important, because it's in 30 years, the return on equity you will have with the CDPQ Infra project is not really important if there's like 5 degrees more on the planet Earth or 3 degrees more, and you're going to have floods everywhere. So it's hard for the financial markets to adjust to these new contexts. I think it's not quick enough. It's just not quick enough. So it's going to cost a lot.
Um, with part of the contract being private is the main concern that we don't fully know how the costs are evolving, or are there other big concerns with the contract being partially private?
Well, you know, like CDPQ Infra, they're very good at finance. So they have a deal with the government of Quebec, and they have deals with municipalities. I think they really probably took advantage of their expertise of negotiating the best contract for their interests, CDPQ Infra. But the thing is that, okay, you're very good at finance, you're a very good institution at finance, and you're getting the best you can. But the best you can is against the public interest, because you say, I have my legal department has the best contract, like my partner is going to pay everything if I forgot something in my construction, but your partner is the public. That's my problem with it. So that's our problem with it at QP. But it's always like that. Like it's like what you expect. You have this deal with a private company that is objective is to make profit, but the objective of the state is not to make profit. That cannot make profit about the with the income taxes. It makes no sense. Even though if that's what we see, because we want to make surpluses to pay your debt, to the debt that is, you have bonds, but you especially to make sure that you please the quotation agencies, that's gonna put a quote on your debt, A plus, like that's what we want to please them. We want to please New York financial markets.
Thank you. I only have a couple last questions, and then I'll let you go.
Yes,
Thank you so much for all your time. Um,
my pleasure.
the REM, will this in any way affect the price of other transit in Montreal? Such as the STM. Pretty.
Yes, very good question, actually. And that's a big worry we have here in Canadian Union of Public Employees. We don't really, we know that there's going to be jobs. That's not a problem. It's not a corporate issue. It's really, uh, it's really an issue that, as I told you before, like there's exclusivity contracts that's going to make the optimization of the returns on the fees of the user. So it's like REM is going to be the first utility of public transit, the private utility that we have to where we have to put our users. So STM, RTL, and STL, to name just these ones, like Laval, Longueuil, and Montreal, they're gonna optimize their trajectories of their buses going to the REM to make sure that REM their trains are always full. So that means that STM is not gonna plan to make its buses full or Laval its buses full. So when you don't have a bus that is full, what is saying the populist leader? You see, we put money into the public transit, but the buses are empty. Yes, because it's empty because you filled up your trains that you want to make profit on with this DPQ. So these exclusivity contract, we think that is gonna make suffer. It's gonna have a negative impact on the financial results of STM, RTL, and STL. And when you see the ARTM right now, so the ARTM, the STM is not. There's a big change. It's ARTM that controls everything. Like all the money, all the planification is coming from the ARTM, but nobody knows what is ARTM. So when ARTM is going to see that STM is not filling his buses, it's going to say, but we're going to cut your budget. And that's what is happening now. They're going to cut your budget because you don't have the users. Like l'achalandage, like we don't see a growth, and the people are not using your buses. Probably because you lack productivity. Probably because you're not good at planning. So we're going to cut your budgets. And ARTM is financed by MTQ, Ministry of Transport of Quebec. So it's all going to be like a downward spiral to elimination of STM, RTL, or STL. Or it's going to be a second class. You're going to have two public services. The public services of transit from the REM, which is going to be for the suburbs, because that's the problem too with the REM. It's not helping Montrealers. It's helping people. A lot of people from the suburbs come to Montreal. That's great, like welcome. But at the same time, we need like public transit inside Montreal. We're 2 million. Like half of Quebec is in the Greater Montreal region. Laval, Longueuil, and Montreal. If you take that, the 88 municipalities, that's 4 million. But half of this is Montreal, and a lot of people, like most of them, they work in Montreal. And I don't think in Brassard they're gonna develop like a economic pole there or in Longueuil. Like it's gonna be Montreal. It's gonna stay like that because we're a center. We're a city. So some people they think like they're gonna reinvent like remote working. Like yes, but still we can have a center. At least we need it because if we start to develop like a flat city without center, then there's gonna be car everywhere. So the REM is serving these class, you say, so like the upper class of public services, and then you will have the lower class. And I'm saying like that's gonna be the result where you're gonna have less good service in bus by the STM inside Montreal. So you're gonna have two tier public services, and that's a problem because public services, it should be democratic, it should be equitable, and it should be fair. It should help you to go into the elevator, social elevator. That's what we should optimize. So we shouldn't optimize like a project that makes money to get the people that have good revenues to move from their house with a good revenue inside to work and to come back. What we need to do is to make sure that the people living in Montreal, regardless of their revenues, but actually you have to give, you have to be progressive. You have to make sure that those that didn't come from a high revenue family, for example, you have to make sure that you give them all the opportunities with your public services. For example, to go to university, to go to your school, to go work. I give you a final example with that. In the east part of Montreal, Montréal Nord, for example, okay, or Rivière des Prairies, you have huge neighbor there where you have like no grocery store, no pharmacies, okay, and you have no public transit as well. These people, a lot of these people, they work to Hôpital Maisonneuve Rosemont. Okay, so that's they transit. They transit with the worst public service, and it's not because of STM. It's because the way it's the way they plan the city there, it's just urbanistic catastrophe, I would say. And you have even the Saint Michel neighborhood there. Like there's huge investment that has to be put in social development there, and we think that public transit should be good. Where is there REM there? Where is it? There's no REM. Valérie Plante, she thought about the pink line. That was a good idea because it was like in diagonal and it was going through there. So you have an objective of social economic development. Let's talk about the west of Montreal. Like for example, you can go around the McGill University Center, the MUHC. You have La Salle, you have Côte des Neiges. You can have Verdun too. Look at there. Like yes, you have the green line, you have the orange line. But if you want to come from La Chine or La Salle, it's very hard to get through your job because like hospitals in Montreal, they're big hospitals, university hospitals, they're huge employers. Not all of them you can access them easily, and all these workers more often, like they work in the neighborhoods that are close. So why didn't we think about developing this intra city public transit? And the REM is they failed completely. They're not helping at all intra transport. So as you can see, we're doing a very hard critic of this project.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you think is important to keep in mind or you want to share?
Well, just remember that public transit should be linked to public social development. That's very important. If we don't think like that, if we think about return on equity and a public transit, I think as activists, we have to denounce that, and we have to make sure that they answer our needs. So the governments, the planners, public planners, they have to understand. They have to understand that public transit is for social development.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.